Hello friends, and welcome back to the channel. And today's episode is going to be about first principles thinking, where we are going to be looking at what is first principles thinking and what are the certain examples in daily life, how you can use first principles thinking to make better informed decisions in your life. So let's get started. So what is first principles thinking? First principle thinking, or thinking by first principles, is a foundational statement that is found to be true based on certain falsifiable facts. Now these falsifiable facts are derived from science or they are derived from data. What is it not? It is not thinking by analogy or comparison, and it is not thinking by presence of assumptions. A falsifiable fact is a fact which can be proven to be false. Like for example, if I say all swans are white, this is a false statement because we know that there are certain black swans as well. So why use first principles thinking in your daily life? Well, I would say there are three main reasons. First is if there are any problems in your life and you want the quickest path to reach a particular solution, first principle thinking really helps you to achieve to that solution in a quickest possible way. Secondly, we are not going to be using dogma. We are going to be using hard raw facts and basic principles. So what is dogma? Dogma is when you are going to be basing your decisions or your convictions are based upon certain beliefs, but they are not based upon data. Like for example, if somebody says that because we have done this thing, that's why it is true, or because it was done in the past, that is why it has to be done now, that is called as thinking by dogma. It is like considered like a rule book. It is hard, set in concrete. You cannot question it, you cannot ask, or you cannot question the legitimacy. There is no way to get around it. It might have been made by a person at a certain period of time and in a certain location, but it may not be relevant today for us in this particular situation. That is why you have to always challenge the dogma. And the third reason is, most of the revolutionary ideas which have happened in history have happened in people who have gone and seen beyond what is there on the surface, and they've gone one level and two levels below, and they have seen what is the absolute basics of anything, and then tried to develop new ideas. And mankind has progressed accordingly, because everybody can see through the surface, but great ideas are not on the surface, they are actually somewhere below, and you have to really go one level or two levels down and see the absolute hard facts, and from there work your way up. So are there any examples in real life where we can use thinking by first principles? Well, first of all, the author Tim Urban, in his blog Wait But Why, has explained this very succinctly. He compares a chef and a cook to thinking by first principles and to thinking by analogy. Imagine a chef who has basically got all the talent which he has in his head, and he has all the raw ingredients in front of him. So he's going to use his knowledge, he's going to use his ideas in his brain and mix the ingredients in a certain way, and he's going to come up with a recipe. Whereas a cook, on the other hand, has to use a recipe book. He is thinking by analogy. If you take the recipe book away from him, he will not be able to make the recipe. He might be able to make certain variations in the recipe, but he cannot make the recipe from scratch. So thinking from first principles is when you have the absolute raw ingredients with you, and you are going to base your thinking on the basis of those raw hard facts and then work your way up. That is thinking like a chef. While thinking like a cook is when you are going to be basically using a pre-handed recipe book where somebody has given it to you, and you are going to just try some variations in it. You are not going to use your own ideas. You are not going to be challenging whether what has been given to you is right or wrong. So that is the basic difference between thinking by first principles and thinking by analogy. Other example is children. Children always think in first principles. Like my 5-year-old son was asking me, why is the middle finger the longest? Secondly, he was asking me when we were passing through some road construction, is like, how do they make roads? Thirdly, he sometimes, children ask, like, if there is fire requiring air to burn and there is no air surrounding the sun, so how come there is fire on the sun? So if you notice, there is always a why and a how in the way questions are being asked by children. So they always question in first principles. So our job as parents is not to tell them, because I have said you, this is the answer. No, that would be again using dogma. So what we have to do is maybe explain it to them and tell them that this is what are the facts and this is what I know. If I don't know certain things, let us find it out, and then explain them in basis of first principles so that they will use that in their daily life. Thirdly, the famous example given is of Elon Musk, the founder of SpaceX, Tesla, Solar City, Boring Company. He was first asked about the rechargeable battery packs which were placed in Tesla cars. At that time, battery packs used to cost a lot, and that's why electric cars were actually placed on the back burner. Nobody really thought that it would be a lucrative business. But when he was asked at an interview, he said that when you go and look at the individual components which are required in a particular battery, and you try to find the cost of those individual components that make the battery, you see that they are actually available at 20% of the price than what the battery pack is currently selling at. And if you just find great ways of combining them properly, you can make a battery pack at maybe 20 or 30% of the cost which it was initially available at. And that is how we are now seeing electric cars, and it has revolutionized the entire industry. So this is how, by use of first principles versus thinking from analogy, that he has actually developed a low cost model of developing battery packs. Also, he made rockets reusable by propulsive thrusting technology. That is also by use of first principles thinking, because initially nobody thought that rockets could be made reusable. He was laughed off as a crazy person, but then he has used his first principles thinking and actually made rockets reusable, which is a phenomenal thing in today's day, especially when we want to be a multiplanetary species. The last example is, in the ancient Rome, there used to be people who would carry heavy weights on their backs and take them from one place to another. At the same time, there were carriages also present which would transfer people from one place to another, but nobody thought that you could actually combine those two things. But it was only until the late 1970s where Bernard Shaw actually made the suitcase with caster wheels on it, and that is how we started carrying luggages instead on our backs. We started carrying it on the suitcases. So lastly, I would like to discuss how do you use first principles thinking in your daily life. Suppose you haven't identified a problem in your life. So first is to identify what is the problem and what are the particular roadblocks in you trying to solve that particular problem. Then you take those individual problems one by one and then break them down to their absolute basic facts. See till what level you can go, below which you cannot break it down further. Challenge the assumptions and then try to find a solution based on the circumstances you have. So, a common example a student might give is, I have my exams coming but I don't have time to study. So the problem is there is no time to study, and that's the assumption that there is no time available. So what can be done? Okay, try and find out why is there no time to study. Okay, there is work, there is family, there are other commitments, that's why you don't have time to study. So the next question is, where can I find time to study? Can I find it early in the morning? Can I find it late in the night? Is there a way I can try and squeeze in at least half an hour, maybe in my daily commute, or maybe while work, between work, or somewhere I can find maybe an hour or 2 hours or something. And then basically from the problem you've now gone to the solution by first principles thinking. So in conclusion, I hope that you've understood few points about first principles thinking versus thinking by analogy, and you can use this mental model in your daily life and make informed decisions. See you in the next video. Thank you.